Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look. Well, hello everybody, Stu Best here, and we're trying to make connection here with Larry. It's not coming in the way it should, but anyway, what we're going to be talking about tonight is a number of things. Here we go. Hi, Larry, you there?
Yes, Stewart, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Where do you want to start? We got a ton of news that's going on. Should we start with the politics and the possibilities of what all of this means with the FBI doing what they did, the Justice Department now coming in and verifying it, and obviously from everything that was said by the FBI director, she's violated a number of laws that anybody else would be in prison for. What's your take on this?
Well, since I came up in law enforcement and was in it for years, and I'm very aware of the fact that to violate federal law, there does not have to be intent as far as, information, top secret, confidential, etc. You don't even have to have the intent. This is so interesting, and all this played out in a series of just a few days that involved Bill Clinton and James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Obama. I'd had a few people on the news media recently, within the last week or week and a half, that were already saying that the fix was in. And when you look at it and you look at what happened, and everybody keeps saying evidence, intent, and I'm, they're totally not listening. They're totally not listening. There does not have to be intent. But yet, it's like when you say that, you're the bad guy. And, I'll tell you what, this is how I see it. I've had a number of people recently, since I had talked about Donald Trump being maybe a Cyrus, the Persian king. But nobody goes and reads that. They don't look at it clearly to see what history shows or biblically what is shown. What's interesting, at a time when God's people are in a real bind, and time's running short, everybody thinks that somehow somebody needs to raise somebody up that's, I guess, in the elect or something, or maybe just godly, or when they raised up a preacher like Mike Huckabee to run, everybody rejected him. He just had a few followers that even listened to him. So it's clear America did not want a godly man. America does not want a righteous man. America rejects anybody that's not in the New World Order clique. And so, and this is the way I see it. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, it's kind of like, you're expecting a span bridge over a gap. We're right there up against the gap. And everybody, we're expecting a golden span bridge from heaven or something. And then God don't even throw you really a rope bridge. He just throws you a single rope. And it don't even have knots tied in it where you can pull yourself up a little easier and get across the gap, and you're still not satisfied. Sure, I'll just end that with saying this, and, I may go into a Marzulli rant in a minute, but this is the way I see it, that if nothing else, you're not going to satisfy America. She's determined she ain't going to be, she's just simply not going to be saved as a nation. But what's so interesting, if nothing else, Trump has done one thing. He has literally laid out the evil in this system. He has clearly already showed that Congress failed the American people, that the president, the executive branch, failed the American people, that the Supreme Court judges have failed the American people, and now the Attorney General and the FBI has failed the American people. So I have this question: American people, you have simply no alternatives. So if you want Hillary Clinton, and you'll know what the word cabal means, the cabal. You'll know why somebody years ago started warning about Bill and Hillary Clinton just becoming the governor and the first lady of the state of Arkansas, and then began to warn when Bill Clinton ran for president about what was coming and the connections and the cabal or cabal, or any way you want to say that, how that all linked up. But do you know, Stewart, probably nobody ever imagined that a Hillary and a Bill Clinton could have an avenue right back to the White House, the top of this government again, in a future time where we are right now. And so I just have to tell people in America, you don't want the rope, go for Hillary.
Yes.
There you go. You got it now. Oh, yeah, Hillary Clinton. There you go. Bill and Hillary back in the White House. You got it.
Well, have we not heard that the fix was in, not only for this deal here with the FBI and the Justice Department, but also that the fix was in that she would be the next president, period, that's what the rich men of the earth want.
That's right.
But it makes me wonder.
What's interesting, I'm just going to mention this because it might have something to do with what you're talking about, Stewart. It was so interesting when Obama flew her on Air Force One to that meeting and had her stand in front of the presidential seal and announce her candidate, and Obama got up there and said she's the best one ever, and that he was ready to hand the torch to her now. He's ready to give it to her now, and Stewart, I really honestly believe that he has got his eyes now locked in on the UN. He wants to run the world, and Hillary's going to do his third term in America and finish this transformation. Oh, boy.
Well, it makes you wonder because of the prophecies, and people have mocked everything that I've said prophetically for quite a while, but it does make me wonder if the woman that rides the beast is not a literal thing right in front of the eyes of the people so that they have no excuse when they see Hillary riding the United beast, the United States, which is I believe, through the UN, the beast power, the final beast power. I mean, the UN, according to Daniel, is a treaty power. It derives all of its power from treaties. It's an organization. It's not a nation. It's not a state. And that's what Daniel the prophet said, that it would rise up, it would usurp the constitutions of the other nations, and it would rise up to become the final power on earth. But it comes up in the United States, just like I believe Jesus Christ said it would. It's a replay of Nimrod. It's a replay of ancient Babylon rising to the fore. And the other thing that interests me with this Trump-Hillary confrontation, if you will, is the protocols of the elders of Zion, that non-existent document that is being fulfilled with 100% accuracy, where they said they would drive a wedge between the people and the government. And I believe that's exactly what they're attempting to do. They are blatantly lawless now. They have infuriated the legal system. Constitutional lawyers are ripping their hair out. No matter where I turn, I hear that this is just totally unprecedented.
Yeah.
And it has destroyed law, basically. They can now do whatever they want to do. The precedent has been set. And I was also listening to a lawyer today who said that Comey, or whatever his name is, from the FBI, the director, has to turn over these things to the Justice Department they have to evaluate whether or not charges are to be brought.
No, that's already
Yeah.
Loretta Lynch came on today and said this is over. It's a closed deal, and it's done, and it's over. They don't have to turn over anything to anybody. Justice Department has already ruled. Loretta Lynch has already said it's took care of. No charges against Hillary Clinton of any kind.
So the fix really was in. You know, Trump, what was it, maybe 5-6 days ago, said the fix was in. But when he was on O'Reilly last night, O'Reilly kept pushing him, I want an answer from you, Donald, but he wouldn't give one. He was very, very circumspect about saying that this was totally lawless, even though I know he knows it is, and I think everybody else knows that it is. But my point is that they're blatantly coming out into the open with total lawlessness, maybe, possibly, in an attempt to get the American people so riled up, which is what the protocols said they would do, that they rise up in revolution, and they're just waiting for that to happen, and they're alphabet agents with all their hollow point bullets, guns, et cetera, will then squash the uprising, declare martial law, and America is done. And part of the protocols said that they would then come forward and they would say, well, we have an emergency situation here. And because it's an emergency situation, we need to suspend freedoms. And, of course, the big freedom they need to suspend is the right to own firearms. They ran that little scenario down there when Katrina struck in New Orleans. They were confiscating firearms. Totally illegal. Had no right to do it, but did it anyway. They got to get the guns in order to move in and, I think, do the FEMA camp routine, because otherwise there will be major bloodshed all over. In the city, I believe maybe the folks might turn in their firearms because they're ignorant, but I doubt that would happen in the rural districts. I think they'd have a horrible time in the rural districts. That could disintegrate into a full-fledged civil war at that point. But, it just makes me wonder, is Donald Trump actually Cyrus, or is Donald Trump paid opposition? And this is deliberately done to drive the wedge openly now between the people and the government. They might even get rid of Trump. I mean, if they wanted to do him in, I can't imagine how he could defend himself if the order for the hit goes out.
Because Kennedy couldn't defend himself.
Yeah, you're right. Ronald Reagan couldn't either, really. They just missed. It just makes you wonder what's really going on. What's your take on the possibility that might be what's going on? It's hard to know.
It's certainly a possibility. It is hard to know, and I think that as a nation, as a people, we have no concept of where we came from anymore. Most of that's all been erased.
Yes.
They've erased everything. Anything about heaven is gone, and anything about our early existence is pretty much erased or changed. And so, the people, they're just the blind leading the blind, the people. The veterans are the real, they're the only ones that have the knowledge of how it should be done, and because they've been there, done that, and because they know history. Most of them know history, and of course the veterans, as you well know, are really an enemy of the state already. The American veterans, and what's interesting though, Stewart, is prophetically talking about the U.S. and the beast and UN and all of this. It's very interesting that China and Russia, the leaders of those two countries, have been watching very, very closely how this is coming together, and they're not so inclined to allow the beast to get too far, I think. There's going to be difficulties.
Well, it does make you wonder. Now, if I've been reading, I'm sure you have too, about how the leaders of the Republican Party, they don't set their rules until 6 days before the convention. And they are trying to figure out how they can dump Trump and put somebody else in. Would the American people, particularly the Republicans, put up with that kind of a act on the part of the elite Republican leaders?
Well, so far
they
have so far. And
well, they
we're
certainly
almost
aren't
right there. But the interesting thing is, there's also, if you saw the Drudge Report, indicated that some hackers were releasing emails now that they had hacked from the DNC, and the DNC has already got operations and plans in order to literally disrupt and destroy totally the Republican convention and platform and the Trump movement. So this could be, and you know well as I do, Stewart, I was in police work for years, and if you look at all that's been going on with the police forces across our nation, they have literally all been pretty much made to stand down. They're not going to interfere. They're not going to interfere anymore. You know, the fix is in, seriously, and as far as authority, and people had better in the country be prepared to take care of their families, because this may really, really get bad. And you forget 911. Of course, I don't know what people would do if they couldn't get 911 on their phone, because they don't know anything else. So a lot of people are going to be in a lot of trouble, it looks like. This is not going to end well, I don't believe.
Well, is it possible that they might pull some sort of a false flag at the convention?
Very possible.
I mean, you'd have a gathering of conservative leaders. It'd be a good place to do it if you want to get rid of conservatives. It just makes you wonder. And I know they are beefing up all of the... yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think because of watching what Putin and Netanyahu and others are doing, and the preps that they've been getting together on, lead one to believe that possibly America may have its hands full and be in real trouble real quick. And so I look almost for anything. L.A. Marzulli said it right. He calls it days of chaos. I think we're already entered into that, and it's just only going to get worse.
What is, talking about Netanyahu, Putin, what's going on in the Middle East right now? It appears that Putin has once again entered Syria. I noticed on your blog you had, with their new helicopters and everything.
Oh, yeah, a lot of new stuff. As a matter of fact, he's moving some of his most incredible anti-air missile batteries, the brand new ones he's got, that's even more than the S-400s. He's moving these into the Baltic region, to counter NATO and the U.S. And this reminds me so much, Stewart, of the old Tom Clancy novel, Red Storm Rising, where
yes,
they start to preposition forces, and I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that in Putin. He's prepositioning forces all over the world. He's even got them in the Arctic. He's got them everywhere. And interestingly, a lot of his new submarines are going to sea, and that only occurs, Stewart. And I know that Obama and his administration, and we're not concerned with that, but also I have to say we're walking in insanity. We're dead man walking as a nation, Stewart. We're literally a dead man walking, and we don't have enough smarts to know that, I suppose. I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. This nation is totally defenseless, basically, and leaderless. It's like the helm. There's nobody even got their hand on it. This thing's running itself. and it's going to be a new Titanic, but nobody seems to care. We're having our holidays. We're shooting off our fireworks. We're having parties, and we're all running in glee, and we're just brain dead stupid. They're even having Christmas shows right now in July on television, Stewart. We're brain dead stupid, and we're just not going to. We can't get there from here.
Well, maybe this is why warnings are coming out of Israel and other places that World War III actually could begin any time. I mean, why is Putin beefing up his Syrian Middle East war machine? Are they planning on something?
Well, we do know there are prophecies about Putin somewhat having a head-on with Turkey. And we do know that Putin also has put Russian military in Armenia and has the Armenian army facing Turkey, too. And while he's also within Syria facing the Turkish line. And this is what's interesting. Now, Netanyahu is arming. I mean, they're going all out. They're preparing for missile attacks, from Hezbollah and Hamas, and they're all lining up to attack him. And of course, now this is why you know that there's some kind of click between Netanyahu and Putin, is because just a couple of days ago, the Israelis fired into Syria and took out some Syrian positions who Putin is supposed to be protecting. And then yesterday, I believe it was, or day before yesterday, the Israeli Air Force flew to Quintera, which is the Golan Heights region of Syria, and destroyed S-300 equipment inside warehouses there. And the Russian military machine did nothing. They allowed them to go in, they allowed them to do their destruction, and they let them back out. And then they've also, there's coordinated military activity going on between Russia and Israel. So this is unheard of, Stewart. This is literally unheard of, but it is going on. And one of the other things, too, that they just began implementing is, of all things, the U.S., Israel, and the Russians have coordinated some missile defense to defend Europe. So there's, we're not being told close to the truth at all about what's going on around us. And, of course, you remember what Standeo said? He said whether it's going to be World War III, whether it's going to be the destroyer coming in and its entourage, whether it's going to be the sun casting, destruction on the earth or whatever, he says, you will never know. You will never be warned. They will never tell you. And so, Stewart, we know we're following clues, you and I, that we're gleaning, but as far as any warnings, we're not going to be warned.
Oh, yeah, I think they're not going to warn us. And I also noticed on your update you had Russia's new submarine force now going to sea. Reminds me of the hunt for Red October. You remember what the commander said? We're just going to lay outside there and listen to their music and then hit them when the time is right. They'll never even know what hit them. Yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things, too, is we know that there have been Chinese submarines, nuclear submarines, off the West Coast because some of them actually have fired missiles, that shocked America. And then we know that they have them off the Russians have been off the East Coast, Stuart, I think the game of chess that's being played against America is so one-sided. Of course, Obama, he's on any side. It don't matter, but the American people, that's since he came into office, he's literally been at war with the American people. And I know a lot of people don't. I know people don't want to hear that. I don't care whether they want to hear it. I said it anyway. The NSA probably recorded it. It's there for posterity, maybe. But that we're checkmate already. Basically, the other military forces in the world pretty much have checkmated us as far as America doing a lot of anything, anywhere, and we don't have any leadership to do it anyway. So, I don't know, Stewart. I wish I had better news.
Yeah, it's, well, of course, we know from biblical prophecy that America has to go down. It has enemies within. It has a fifth column within. I mean, the other enemies, of course, are elected leaders committing treason. Obama's opening up the borders to allow this fifth column, final influx, to come in. And then when the signal is given, I guess they rise up and, like Isaiah says, mischief in the cities. And we know Russian Spetsnaz are already in here. We know that they undoubtedly have a bunch of little suitcase presents for us that can do a lot of damage. And who knows what else they've buried in here. So yeah, we're toast. It's just a question of when the order is given, or I guess one could say when the Lord raises his hands of protection, which I think he probably already has. I don't think we have any protection anymore at all. I mean, look at what's going on all over the place. Look at, I mean, the total lawlessness of it. And it's kind of fulfilling the prophecy of the Kenyan elder back in 1912.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, very accurate. It seems very accurate. Of course, we haven't seen the end of it yet, you know, but it seems very accurate. You know, it should have been a warning. Of course, you know, when you and I said that years ago, everybody looked at us like we just went stupid right in their face, you know. And I don't know.
Well, I have a headline here. It says FEMA contractor unrest after 395% coming soon. What? Are we looking at something really bad here?
Well, it sounds like the food. Are you there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
It sounds like yeah, I can hear you clearly. It sounds like we're going to have food problems, and of course we already know that. You know, a lot of the food we get now, Stewart, if you go to the store and look, vegetables especially and such from other countries, it's not very good anymore. The quality is just about as poor as it can get, and it don't last 15 minutes once you get it home. A lot of the food stuff are not growing. They're not producing. Our weather is so unbelievably unusual that the crops don't even know whether to open their eyes or close them. And so, you know, I think we're about to see, it won't take much, Stewart, for prices to skyrocket as far as food goes. When, you know, Holideo in her book and really on their side had warned and has warned for some time about foodstuffs that are going to, all of a sudden, we're going to find ourselves in a shortage. And it'll probably be an unrecoverable shortage for the whole nation, you know.
Well, you and I have called it stealth famine for what, the last 4 or 5 years, I think. You know, we've mentioned stealth famine for some time. Even years ago, we mentioned stealth famine. That it would come. We just didn't know exactly when it would get here. But you're right. I mean, the ocean currents are changing. I was reading an article where the jet stream looped down below the equator. First time it's ever happened, I guess. Did you read that? I mean, that was amazing.
I saw that.
So how can, when we have these... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention, the jet streams. We've got the weather patterns that have moved and shifted. We've got the weather, the polar shift movement. You know, it's really really strange. I mean, all over the planet, the weather is changing.
The other night, we had a very red sunset. Extremely red up here. And so I went out to take pictures of it, video of it. And the sun seemed to be setting much further to the north-northwest than it should have been. And there's this kind of a hilly place on the road where you can look out over a number of miles. And the sun was way to the northwest. So I went out the next day because I thought, well, it just seemed wrong where it set. The next day it set way to the south again.
Huh. Hmm.
And we have been getting reports from people, wives who have lived in their homes for a long time, and they'll say something like, well, you know, the sun never came into that particular window at that point of time, or it never did at all. And now the sun is shining in that window. And, you know, the Inuit made mention of the fact that there was a wobble. And there's a website out there called the Big Wobble, I think they call it. And they're kind of tracking some of this stuff. And a lot of people poo-poo it, but when you have a wobble, it doesn't take much of an inclination to change everything here. And then it rights itself, so the next day you go back out and everything's back to normal. So unless you were recording it daily, and there's some guys on YouTube that are doing that, and you can literally see these changes that are just very abnormal. So there's no question something's going on, and if you have that kind of a wobble and this kind of weather pattern, how can farmers expect to plant and get anything? Now around here, the corn is already head high, and it's only the 6th of June or July.
Mm-hmm.
Usually
Wow.
you have knee-high corn by July 4th. That's the old saying up here.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's head height. And so it makes, and plants that normally don't blossom or whatever until like late August, early September, they're already come and gone. And it makes you wonder if the Book of Enoch is not coming into play, where it says that the seasons will begin to merge and everything becomes very abnormal. I'd love to hear from people if they would email at enigma@trueinsight.com and tell us what they've noticed, because this is bizarre. And this may well have an effect on famine. I mean, if we have bad weather, hail, and we've gotten severe storms like you have down there, it can destroy crops overnight. Or we could have a very early freeze, too.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Have you noticed anything down there that's abnormal that way?
Well, one thing down here, Stewart, is the most incredible lightning storms and downpours you've ever seen, and the ground keeps moving. That's the one thing about Oklahoma lately, is the ground keeps moving, and I've never seen it like this. We are more active now than California.
Do you believe this is part or a precursors to the visions that you and your wife have had about a major rift and then a huge earthquake developing down there?
It's very possible, very possible. You know, and there when we actually moved here, we talked to people that had went up on mountaintops and prayed, and it was shown things about this region and something happening in this region, and that changed everything, and it changed it all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. So it reminds me so much, Stewart, of that 10.5 or that 10.5 Apocalypse movie that they made years ago. And remember that big earthquake, and then it actually started splitting the nation, actually. Remember, going to the Gulf of Mexico?
Yes. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. I just, everything is getting so bizarre. Here's another headline. Bombshell. CIA head confirms man is playing God with the weather. Chemtrails and geoengineering now proven once and for all. So they've been denying anything about chemtrails for how many years? The people that talked about them were considered absolutely nuts. And now we have the CIA head confirming they've been doing it right along.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the CFR. That didn't exist, remember? And then it was the Bilderbergs. They didn't exist either.
That's right.
It's just, I don't know. It's amazing to me that all of this is going on, and the American people just have no clue whatever of what's happening. What do you got for Earth changes? I know this is accelerating.
Oh, it's accelerating all the time, actually. There was a, let's see, I was trying to find my note here. There was recently, they're detecting large-scale motion near the San Andreas fault system. It's about 125-mile-wide lobes of uplift that are now making movement. So they're really concerned about the West Coast. And, of course, they're still having earthquakes down by Ecuador and, off Mexico and all the way down to Chile. And nothing's slowed down. I mean, I know that it's not even really making the news. This is just something, you have to go in there and dig out anymore. You can't, it's not making news particularly. But if you go and dig, you'll find little, and what's interesting, too, is recently, Ceres, they had an update about that asteroid they called Ceres.
Yes.
Now they're actually finding new clues and bright spots that are showing up more than ever before. So they don't even know what that's all about. But we've got that new Juno spacecraft that just arrived, Jupiter.
And Jupiter?
Yeah.
You remember the reports where they were going to attempt to ignite Jupiter? So that they would have their two-star system, like they showed in the movie 2001, and then what was the other one that came after it, 2010 or something like that, where they ignited Jupiter?
I remember that.
Is there any chance that this thing is going to attempt to do that? I wonder.
I really don't. Yeah, I really don't know. Whether it will, if they're even going to try it, because whatever this spacecraft is, the last year or so, they've had something secret going on, some kind of activity, cosmic activity, and there was a lot of plans at shooting at asteroids and such, but this one about Jupiter has been a secret till it just started arriving, basically, and which is now, off station there, off of Jupiter, and it's very possible they may try to ignite Jupiter. Now, whether it ignites or not, I don't know. Whether they're successful, I don't know. However, we know man, and the Bible clearly indicates that he destroys those that would destroy. And so it's in the mind of man to do all these evil things, and whether they need another son or not, they may certainly try.
Yeah, it's kind of like CERN.
Yeah.
Whether we need to be punching holes in time and space, I guess, remains open as to how wise that is. I think I have the report you were talking about the San Andreas. New technology scientists have produced alarming computer images for the first time, showing huge sections of California are now rising and sinking along the San Andreas fault.
Yeah.
So they do expect a huge earthquake that is now overdue. And, of course, we also have this situation in Yellowstone, and it does appear as though they're hiding stuff about Yellowstone. Have you heard any more about Yellowstone? I mean, other than the fact that, it keeps getting hotter and hotter, and they keep saying, the magnet chamber is much bigger than we thought. If that thing ever blew, that'd be the end of the United States.
Well, we do know, and Stan Dale confirmed that they've taken the data offline. They're still collecting the data. We don't get it. anymore. And I've been posting a number of 3.5 or such earthquakes close to West Yellowstone, Montana, but you know, the real data has been removed from the public view. So, you know, Standeo confirmed that, and so, you know, that, well, here we go again. You know, they're hiding something. I mean, you know they are. There's things going on that they don't want you to find out about, and they just remove the data from you where you can't know.
Well, did you see that Mitch Botro's article on the coming cosmic wave? Yes,
I saw that.
Well, this kind of confirms this Dr. LaViolette. And I'm curious because he claims that you can't see this coming galactic wave. Now, the elite may know about it because they've sent their anti-gravity craft down further towards the core to maybe see something. But for the most part, according to LaViolette, who nobody wants to mention, and he's been advocating this gravity wave, galactic superwave, for years now, and nobody ever mentions him, Botros didn't either, that this thing, when it hits, comes without any warning whatever. It just is suddenly upon us because it's traveling at the speed of light. By the time it gets here, it's too late. And the cosmic energy waves, or whatever they are, all kinds of light spectrum and all that, microwaves, et cetera, by the time they hit Earth, the only warning you see is a blue star. And LaViolette says that star will shine about 1,000 times brighter than any star in the heavens. And that could, I wonder if that's not the sign of the Son of Man. This blue star that the Hopi talk about.
Yeah, they talk about a blue Kachina and a red Kachina, and the blue one could certainly be this other. And at the same time, you know, we have this dwarf star, you know, the actual binary star.
Yeah, the inbound
star. Yeah, you know, and it is red, and it's not really a bright red, but it's a, you know, kind of a fiery color until it's close, I suppose.
Oh, you know, you're right.
So maybe you've got that one that looks like the blue Kachina, and the other one looks like the red Kachina.
Which comes first? It's the red one, isn't it?
Oh boy, I think
I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I'm rusty.
I wonder.
That, you know.
Because
I know that
LaViolette, he's done his. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I know that Augusto has also seen a red and a blue star-like thing in the heavens, and been shown that, and he would know more about the incoming, so to speak, of each of those. Yeah, you know, but it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting, and that would account for the red. The Cobran talks about that, and then the blue one now. That's new. That's new data. This gravitational wave and all of this data, and you know, is really new as far as the blue color and all. That's new stuff.
Mhm. Well, you know, it's interesting that the ancients say that the star turns into what looks like an all-seeing eye, which is used by the Illuminati in the Masonic world. It's called the Eye of Jove. It's on the back of your dollar bill on the top, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye that's there. And LaViolette claims that the ancients were simply warning us about this Eye of Jove, and that really is what it signifies, is the approaching galactic superwave. Now, what's interesting is the timing of this thing. The galactic core would have to have exploded 23,000 to 26,000 years ago, and it would now be reaching us right now, just as the Bible says all these end-time events would start to converge. Now, you remember that insider who said that they knew it's coming.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that this thing may well have something to do with dimensional shifts. And I'm not sure if I mentioned on one of the programs about this mystic who claimed that when this wave, this super wave comes through, a lot of people vanish. And that's sort of like what the Mayans said, that a portal opens up or dimension shift occurs, and people vanish, and the ones that are left behind, their consciousness has changed totally, kind of like the Mandela effect. Have you heard any more, by the way, about the Mandela effect at all? I know people are ridiculing it and saying it's ridiculous and all that, but there's something going on here.
Yeah, it's of course, I call something similar to that like the Daniel effect, because in the book of Daniel it talks about the time this king rises up that destroys 3 other kings, and takes over. There is, according to the wording, a alteration of time occurs. And you can read that in the book of Daniel if you read it really, really close. That's what that term it used. It says change, but if you go back into the original language, that change means actually alter time.
Mhm.
And
well,
so
I know the book of Revelation says time ceases; it stops at a given point. Time or delay is no longer. So there is a point in time when sudden destruction sweeps planet Earth, and that sudden destruction is definitely global in its nature. And I'm beginning to wonder if the sudden destruction is not this gravity wave, this cosmic wave that's coming.
Well, do you remember there was a movie, last time we talked about this, the Mandela effect or whatever, I got an email, I think I forwarded it to you. There was a movie called, what was the name of it? It's where a flash of something occurred and changed everything, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I got it in my emails, but right this minute I've actually got the movie that came out a few years ago when it was some kind of effect. Wow.
Well, there was a guy in a movie who went back and talked to himself, kind of like Back to the Future. And if people really watch Back to the Future, it had 9/11 written all over it. It did have a Mandela effect in it because it went from the Twin Pines Mall over to Lone Pine Mall. Most people probably didn't even recognize it. But it was similar to the Twin Towers. It went from the 2 pines that are demonstrated on the sign, Twin Pines Mall. It has a 9/11 on the clock. It's backwards, so it reads 1:16, but it's actually 9/11 upside down. And you have the Twin Pines, which are the Twin Towers. And then you have the Lone Pine Mall, which is the equivalent of the Freedom Tower, all on 9/11. And if you recall when Doc first begins his experiment at the mall where they are, he has 2 stopwatch, and they both read 9/11. They knew about 9/11 way back when they produced this movie. And the Mandela effect would be, and in fact, in one of the pictures where Marty is being asked to donate to the tower that's got destroyed by lightning, the clock, save the clock tower, right over the lady's head is the all-seeing eye of Jove. Referring, if you go back to the ancients, it's referring to the galactic shockwave. The other thing that's interesting is that you had to accelerate to 88 miles per hour to go into the next dimension, to travel through time. Well, 8 on its side is the eternity symbol.
Exactly.
Why would they pick 88 miles per hour unless they're trying to tell us something? And when Marty comes back, he crashes into the Assembly of Christ church and does some damage to it. It's almost like this movie was showing us all about the portal to the deep. What do they call it? The bottomless pit. And you know, when they portray the bottomless pit, it always has smoke coming out of it. Most people probably don't realize in Back to the Future, when Doc is backing the time machine out of the truck, it's a black hole with smoke coming out of it. And I couldn't quite figure out why would they put smoke in there. Well, it's portraying the bottomless pit and opening it up. And then the license plate on his car reads out of time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that?
Sure do. Yes, absolutely.
So they were trying to show us something here. And I think we're on the verge here of something. And if you get into that celebration over there in Switzerland, there is one of the scenes was, again, an all-seeing eye with blue waves coming out of it. And that is exactly what Paul LaViolette claims we're going to see when this galactic super wave comes. And in that hole, you see these ghost-like figures floating there. In other words, either we're raptured or we are opening a portal up to these demonic forces. And then we have the picture that was shown on the Hoover Dam. Remember that? It was a black hole, a portal, with blue light coming from it. You suppose they already know all about this stuff?
I would imagine they pretty much do. I was going to mention, too, let me read you this headline from Yahoo News. It says, physicists at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, have just discovered 4 new tetraquarks particles. And they are indicating they're highly unstable and being exotic, and they're made up of 4 quarks. And what's interesting about that, they're going deeper and deeper into the black matter, or the antimatter. But interestingly too is the fact that there was a movie came out talking about that at one time, and Steve Alton had a book where he indicated that in his book, and he said, I hope it never comes true, they literally start a black hole that begins to grow, and it doesn't disappear. It doesn't play out. It actually moves out into space away from the Earth and begins to operate, and we're in trouble. We're really, really in trouble. And so, there is a quatrain, too, by the way, from the Nostradamus that talks about something occurring at, I think it uses the Geneva location.
Oh,
and
really?
It says that there's a great hole in the earth, and many, many dead bodies are lay everywhere. And so, I don't know. We're just kind of putting things together tonight, but I can see why Jesus would say that it was even going to be a time worse than the deluge. In other words, before the flood, it would even be worse. And so we're getting there. We're literally right there.
Yeah. Well, I think, they're advancing so fast and so rapidly now, and they keep increasing the power. There were some Christians, I believe, who had some visions, did they not, about CERN exploding?
Yeah.
I think, if I remember right. They're doing something they know nothing about. And there's no question that they're trying to merge Satan's kingdom literally with our time-space continuum, merge the two together like the Twin Towers to the one tower, and it goes into genetics, it goes into DNA changing and alteration of the human species so that we're no longer human. as they tried back in the days of Genesis. I mean, Jesus said, as it was, so shall it be again. And they're doing the exact same thing. We have women being abducted, impregnated, the children being harvested, the hybrids. I don't think you can deny when you have so many witnesses attesting to it. And what they're trying to do is take humanity and make hybrids out of us. Well, Isn't that what all this is about? Really? Is this not all about the transhumanism and the combining of DNA strands to produce hybrids?
Well, interestingly, Stewart, if you actually change or adapt or the human race, and it's no longer Adamic, who's Jesus going to come back for?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, of course, why Noah was saved. A lot of people think when it says he was perfect in all his generations, it simply means that his DNA and genetic stock was pure Homo sapien. And the aliens were tampering with that. And had they succeeded, there would be no need for a redeemer because he couldn't redeem anyone. And so I think that's exactly what we're looking at. And people really ought to wake up, and I guess they ought to wake up in America anyway, because very soon we're going to be in a police state, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's
go ahead.
Too is I was talking to Richard Shaw a few months ago, and he told me that a lot of the ones that have been studying the abduction series and the abductions of the females and et cetera, that he said they were pretty much sure that they were almost through with all of that activity. The others were, and he said that's scary because that probably means we don't have a lot of time. Okay,
so they've done what they wanted to do, and then what? Exterminate the rest of pure Homo sapien and get rid of them? It makes you wonder. Sometimes they say that. Did you see the movies The Arrival and Arrival 2, where they were altering the climate to make it more fit for the entities that are going to arrive?
I did, absolutely.
It makes you kind of wonder, is that what they're really up to? There's something going on, that's for sure. Any other words you'd like to say before we close out?
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's just so much going on, and what concerns me too, Stewart, is we don't know how much longer we're going to have the freedom to talk to people and tell them what's going on around the world, and so those that follow us and listen to us need to be keenly aware that at any time we could lose the ability to give them the news, give them the data. We're in a very, very interesting time frame.
Yeah, I think people, I don't know what they're going to do for their news. They're going to have to rely strictly upon the Word of God. It's the only true news you have anyway. And there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there. Even on alternative radio and alternative news, there's so much. You know, the elite have gotten in there. They burrowed their way in, and, they're making that kind of questionable, too. So you really have to do your homework, I guess is all I'm saying. You really have to check out things and make sure they are what they say they are. Anyway, how do they reach you?
Oh, the easiest way is just to go to my blog every day and read what data I've posted, LarryWTaylor.org. That's LarryWTaylor.org, and it'll get you right there.
Well, it seems like you've been posting a whole lot of information lately. Things are accelerating all around the world. So, yeah, that's a good place to start. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stewart. Good night.
Yeah, well, you take care of yourself. We'll see you later, everyone. Good night.